Right, all right. All right. I now call to order Park Rose District School Board working session at 6:33 PM. We will now go into the land acknowledgement, going to be read by Director Bullock.
Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across differences. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together here today. The Park Rose Board of Education begins this effort by acknowledging that we are gathering on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Chinook, Multnomah, Cathlamet, Clackamas, Cowlitz, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Malala, and many other tribes who made their homes along the Columbia River in the Portland area. We pay respect to their elders, past and present. We acknowledge them as the past, current, and future caretakers of this land.
Thank you, Director Bullock. All right, next we'll move into approving the agenda. So just as a reminder, student representatives are welcome to make or second a motion, though they are not voting members of the board. With that being said, do any of the student representatives have questions or comments regarding the agenda as presented? All right, so with that being said, do I hear a motion to approve or amend tonight's meeting agenda?
I second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving tonight's meeting agenda, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. Public comment procedure. If you wish to submit a public comment online before or during this board meeting, please follow link to the electronic public comment form before reading of public comments on the agenda. For in-person public comment, fill out an intent to speak card located on the table by the door and hand it to the board administrative assistant. Excuse me, our wonderful board administrative assistant. All right, so with that being said, we will move into presentations. First, we have a Be Well Staff Wellness Update by Lisa Anderson.
All right, hi everybody. Okay. Andrew asked if I want to stand at the podium and I did not. So I'm gonna hang out over here with y'all. I'm the Connection and Care Coordinator for Park Rose. And we are currently in the third year of a grant from the Oregon Wellbeing Trust. Our district was granted $250,000 to spend over a 4 or 5 year period, and it's earmarked for staff wellness. So we've gotten to do things like, provide staff with beverages and cookies and food and different things. I'm going to go through this because I'll lose my place, but it's been pretty cool. We do take survey data to see whether the things that we're trying to do are useful to staff, whether they enjoy it, whether they're, how they feel about whatever we're doing. And as I said, the money is entirely focused on employee wellness. So let's look at the next one, Andrea. Okay, so we have a collaborative district team that's made up of members from every school site and our transportation, nutrition, and facilities departments. So we wanted to be really sure that often, drivers or other classified staff get forgotten when we're thinking about, planning things for people who work in Park Rose. And it was really important to me and to the team to be sure that we're thinking of all employees, not just the ones that kids might see all the time. So my ulterior motive in looking for this grant was to look for ways to build community back post-COVID. It was very clear that people were not okay when we came back. It just very siloed, very separate from each other. And my ulterior motive was to foster staff community, and I think we have begun to achieve that. It has taken, we're in year 3, and I no longer get emails that are like suspicious, like, is this a trick? Are you just trying to trick us into a staff meeting? I'm like, no, this is really just for your benefit and enjoyment. So each site has what we call mini grants. So we just, took the number of employees in each department and gave a per capita amount to each site so that they could use their, few bucks to spend any way they want within some parameters. And people have done things like go play pickleball together or, all kinds of different things. But what we're noticing is that sites are getting more creative with the kind of things that they're doing and not just going to happy hour or, the same stuff they may have done before. We also are able to offer art classes to staff at no cost, and fitness activities. So if people want to sign up to make a charcuterie board in the art lab, that was the most recent thing that we did. So they could just come and make their thing and get it glazed, and the grant paid for that. We've been able to have different fitness classes and things like that too. And we've had some friendly competition this year in the form of Wellable. So it's just a component of the Oregon Wellbeing Trust. And it's really like competitions, among people. And we've had one in fall, winter, and spring with a different focus for each one. I think fall was actual fitness, like actual movement and physical activity. Winter was, I think it was a meditation one. And spring is still launching. But members of the team have taken on these different components because it's more than one person can do, obviously. And let's see, our next big, end of the year activity is our now 3rd annual party at Rossi Farms in the barn. And this year we've decided, we want to honor retirees there as well, which was another practice that kind of went away during COVID. So we're really pleased to be able to bring that back and let people know how much we appreciate them, including your own Mrs. Grant from Park Rose High School. So that party will take place in the early June before graduation. And there will be just all kinds of cool stuff to do. We've made it family friendly this year because some of the feedback on the surveys was, well, I'd love to come, but, I have kids and I have to get home to them or, that sort of thing. So we decided to make it a family friendly event. So if people want to go home and grab their babies, they can, or bring their partner or that sort of thing. Let's see. I can't think of anything else. Our plans for next year. Yeah, okay. So plans for next year, we currently have about $47,000 that I project will be left at the end of this year, which I'd like to make stretch for a couple of years. So we'll be able to have a continuing partnership with Beyond the Schoolhouse, who is helping us develop systems to support students and staff at all levels of academics, behavior, attendance, and really helping staff to wrap our minds around how do we best do that. And we'll be able to continue doing district-wide celebrations and having classes and different opportunities for staff. It just may be on a smaller scale because I want to make it last. And one of my goals is to work with school teams and departments to come up with some way to have social dues or some other way to supplement this funding so that it can continue on. And I've been collaborating with other districts around the state. How do you do this? How do you, how do you keep your money to last? So just looking at ways we can charge, a nominal little fee for people to go to that art class or whatever it is, even if it's $5, you know? So, yeah, it's been an amazing, you know, process. And, yeah, I'm grateful to have been able to do it. So are there any questions for me?
Start with you, Freddie. Any question?
Thank you.
No question.
No questions, but thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Yes.
What do you feel like or when you have the numbers, participation wise, like are teachers participating, or is it kind of like small group?
Mhm. It depends on the activity. So usually with the little classes, it's, you know, anywhere from 5 to 20 people that come to those. But one of our guidelines is we make the opportunities available so that if anyone wanted to do it, they could. So it's not going to be, all the activities are not going to be at a time when, you know, like, for example, bus drivers couldn't come or elementary teachers couldn't come or that sort of thing. So we try to, you know, rotate the time period. You know, I still want to try to do some things before school if we could get someone to do it. But yeah, but for our, like for the things that happen on campus during the workday, we get a really good turnout for those. So, yeah, I think at the benefits fair, we probably had, I don't know, 200 or 300 people. And for this party over here, our average over the last couple of years one year we had about 220, the next year we had about 175, you know. And this year with it being family friendly, I'm looking forward to seeing, you know, how that turns out. But y'all are invited. So come on down on June 3rd, and celebrate with us.
I see your question, but
Yes.
you know, you can answer it. My question was more specific and like. Is there like a way to, you guys keep track of like what staff is attending these events? Cause it's just like, is it the same 25 people or over there attending the same event? We're in, really getting much involvement from other staff members and just because other staff members may be shy or
Yes.
wanting to partake in activities, but you know, everybody needs, you know, utilizing wellness of activities and it's such great. Yeah, great role and a great opportunity that you're presenting and that you guys have continued to carry on with all the staff and just making it really accessible to everyone by, like you said, rotating times and dates just to really provide that inclusion. So it's really great to hear that. So thank you for all the continued work and looking forward to hearing how the family night turns out to see if it really brings out more the staff to be included.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There are some people who, this year, one of our surveys, one of our questions was, even if this sounds like a great idea, you know, would you come even if it sounded fun? And one of the answer choices was, it sounds great, but this is not my thing. I will never do this. You know, so like just really wanting to know first, because for some people, it's just not their jam. They don't want to hang out with a bunch of other people that they don't know very well or that sort of thing. But that's all the more to encourage people to do things at their own sites with people they work with every single day. I do think that has, you know, helped that piece. And also we learned that just because somebody says snowboarding sounds great, let's do it, does not mean to do it, right? So we've had to figure out how, you know, how to temper. I mean, I think scuba diving sounds amazing, but I'm probably not going to do it on a school night, you know what I mean? So we have to figure out, you know, what things are actually practical and that people want.
No questions, but thank you so much for the information. It's good to see that we are trying to rebuild those connection points from when we were so isolated before.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a process. Thanks.
Yeah, no questions, Bryce. I was just want to say thank you. And I love that what sparked for you to get started. And I like hearing that at year 3, you're starting to see more engagement. So.
Yeah, people know that it's a real thing now.
Mhm, mhm.
And usually if you were to say to a staff member, the wellness team or the Be Well team, they would know what you were talking about at least, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being amazing and continuing to be amazing.
Thank you, Paul.
Right, next, we have a long range facilities report. Robin Stone. What's up? How you doing?
Hey,
Hello.
thanks to all of you for everything you're doing as board members. I know it's a lot. I'm Robin Stolen. I oversee facilities for the district. That includes custodial, maintenance, grounds, capital, long range stuff, big projects, and our rental stuff. So, hopefully most of you got a chance to look through, at least skim through the report ahead of time, because I'm not gonna go through all of that. I think just to highlight a few things is this recent facilities assessment started because ODE said, regardless of who just had one or never had one, we're doing a fresh style. We have funding to do it a certain way, so we changed a lot of stuff about it. So every single district in the entire state is getting or got this assessment with the same company. So before, because we had one in 2021, and at that time, you could get a grant from ODE to have, there was a 2-part one, you could do a facilities assessment and then also a long-range plan. You could choose from recommended or approved people, and I think you might even have been able to ask for a certain other company to be able to do it, but there was like 6, I think, on their preferred list. They did change by going with one company that made it more standard for the state. And they also, I think, whether they fully admit it or not, this assessment was more for them than it was for us. So I think the last one, we had more ability to say, here's how we want to do the assessment. This time they're saying, here's how we're doing it. And so I think even represented in some of the scoring, the index, they kind of pushed some stuff that maybe otherwise would have been considered first 2 or 3 years to 5 to 10 years. I have guesses on why they did that, but I won't worry about why. There is definitely a difference between the two assessments. These assessments are drafts, most of them. I still need to work with them to provide some context that they were missing maybe. Help them massage it to get it more accurate. Make sure there was anything they missed. Because the 2021 assessment, we walked through everything with them. This one, we only did a little bit of walking with them and they did the rest on their own. The other thing that was different about this one was that it included an accessibility assessment, an ADA assessment, which came through as a separate report, the same company, same style, all of them. Few main takeaways from the report is that the district is in pretty good shape overall. However, we're approaching the renewal cycle for certain sites like this one. Most building systems are designed to last 20 to 30 years maybe. You can definitely get 50, 60 out of something that says 20 or 30, but you can't count on them. And I think that's the challenge we run into, is if we're always trying to push it to or beyond that point, then we have what we call catastrophic failure, which sounds super dramatic. It isn't always. It just means now you're not maintaining it, you have to probably replace it. And that usually costs a lot more. So for example, if we did just a section of roof on this building here at the high school, which we have done many of them so far, we're looking at probably $300+ plus $1,000 for one section to restore it, and that usually comes with a 15 to 25-year warranty. If we wait until it gets to that catastrophic failure, now we're looking at millions, over $1 million. It usually times it by at least 3 or 4. So deferred maintenance is easy to do when you have positions or programs or things on the chopping block, but we usually end up paying for it in the long run. The repairs cost a lot more as you go through. And then if you hit that catastrophic failure, now you're talking a lot more, as well as usually program disruption. And that includes lost school days. We do have one of our rental sites that had about a week of lost school days because their boiler went down. The week after it was nice and hot. And that's something, if we would have invested the money earlier, which was a great strategy, we just can't do that with everything, then we could have avoided that. So it's an impossible decision, which is something you guys have to deal with all the time. We also have, besides just things wearing out, we have something called obsolescence. So you have things like mostly equipment, so things with electronics and certain parts. They just stop making the parts for it, or they change them altogether and they're not compatible. So we're at that point with several systems, elevator here, fire alarm panels throughout the district. Those are all things that we're teetering on that. They've warned us, hey, we may not have a part the next time you need it. And if that happens and we're not ready for it, that's gonna be an extra big expense. And even like with the bleachers recently, even if we approve everything and we move forward, we're still looking at months, if not years, to get that actually designed, built, and installed. Key thing to remember with these reports is especially the new one, is it's a life cycle forecast, not immediate failure. So they're just looking at charts and saying, here's how old it is, here's how long we think it will last. And even their dollar amounts, they fluctuate, they use industry standard, but that doesn't mean that's what it's gonna cost. If it costs way more, it costs a little less. We have been very fortunate between ESSER, Portland Clean Energy Fund, or PSEF, state seismic grant, and other grants and rebates that we've been able to get the last 5 years. We've been able to take care of a lot of deferred maintenance, things that we otherwise wouldn't be able to do. And we've tried to focus on things with high return, so things that will save us money as well. But ultimately, this report that was just about providing an understanding of long-term facility trends, planning pressures, and identifying some immediate urgent items that we should be looking at. Now I'm just here for questions. That's what I was hoping we spend most of the time on, rather than just regurgitating the report.
Freddie, any questions?
Can you explain cash optimization?
So when normally you just can keep maintaining something by cleaning it, repairing it, maybe overlaying. If you don't do that, then you have to replace it. So if you have a car and you don't do oil changes and minor repairs, then you get to where the motor fails. Now you're probably just replacing the car rather than just fixing it.
No question. No question for both of you.
No questions, thank you.
We might reach that point if we don't do minor changes in the next couple of years. This catastrophic failure, or are we already there?
Well, it's not for like the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's for every individual thing. So, that term means something different for different things. So like here at the high school, classroom carpet has already essentially reached critical failure. You could change it from catastrophic to critical. That means it's barely carpet. There's spots where it could be a tripping hazard. It's not as sanitary because we can't clean it the same. The roof, most of the roof is in good shape, but if we don't invest ultimately millions to do restoration, then we're looking at tens of millions to do replacements later. And that's not counting the damage that happens or disruptions from the leaks or any of the other issues that would cause. So every system is its own thing. This site being, even though it's one of the two newest, is actually has the most, and it's the biggest, so it's the biggest cost. It also has the most systems that meet that criteria, just because we're at that 30-year, we're just past the 30-year mark. So a lot of those systems are, if they haven't already started failing, they're getting ready to.
No more questions.
Big question. The first one is, do you have solar panels?
We have solar panels on the middle school and Shaver.
And how are they doing?
That is an excellent question. And we don't have good information on that because more than 5 years ago, and I don't have the data on when this happened, the company that operated the tracking system for that went out of business. So we were no longer, the district was no longer able to get reports to show that. So we have looked at, we were looking at using PSEF money to install new meters that we could look at online, because the ones that we had before maybe kind of did that. But right now you would have to physically go to a meter, track it every day, and that's something we haven't started doing yet. We did do a full assessment of the solar panels at the middle school, and we do have some that are failing or have failed, but overall the system is still producing.
Are there any issues with the roofs because of the panels? No. My other question is, what are the things that keep you up at night? That aren't, that you're like, this thing is going.
Honestly, other than the pool boiler, which we finally are getting done this summer, we've been crossing our fingers and toes for 2 years now that wasn't going to fail. Other than that, it's really just the accumulation of it. It's like, even if we took care of all of this stuff, there's still all of this stuff. And so most of the things we can mitigate, like carpet, we get by. The bleachers sucked more for some than others. But we can get by. But there's other systems like that rental boiler or the elevators, fire systems. Those things are the things that I think, because they're so expensive, and if once they go obsolete, we don't have a choice. We're just trying to. We have to pay a lot more to get everything rushed. That's the one thing I keep staying the idea of, is paying a lot more to do it fast, rather than do it on a normal timeline and do it perfect. So.
How many panels, what is that cost?
It would be in the millions if we're talking the whole district. I don't know, like for the fire panels alone, not every panel would be. I'm waiting on a report from a current service provider to say, because this was a new thing I've just heard about in the last month, where everything would still work, but if like we have a smoke detector that goes bad, the new ones wouldn't be compatible with the panel. So that's kind of silly. One smoke detector causes you to have to replace. And then when you have to replace it, not like for like with a different panel, that triggers more rules. So you have to now upgrade to the new stuff, including audio, voice recordings, and a bunch of other stuff. So, so I don't have a specific price because we'd have to see which sites, which panels. Some of them they can retrofit, some of them you can't. And then you also have supplemental pieces like booster panels and things throughout that may or may not go with the new system.
Thank you.
Just as a comparison for something less important, our security and intrusion system, or electronic access. Right when I first got here, so like 2020, we got pricing from another vendor to put in something that wasn't proprietary, because our current system is. And it was well over $1 million just to replace that throughout the whole district. So that was high enough that we pretty much immediately said that's probably gonna have to wait for a bump. And that's a much smaller, less expensive system than our system. But that was for the whole district. It would probably be like. It's hard to say. Just every project that we do is way more than you would ever think it was. So I don't even try to guess anymore. Because even when I get a quote 2 years ago, I think, okay, cost of living, inflation, it's, okay, let's add, 8%. Nope, it's like 40%. What? So.
Thank you.
I have some questions that are more like ideas of this kind of here. Would be, how active they may be, but like just kind of like. The first thing is like. What I was thinking about is there ways or venues or options or opportunities or things that like, some of these things that are needed can be funded through grants or, also like done by like, agencies like for like pro bono services or like, things that are like donations, types of things that can also help our some of our needs.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Before here, I worked for a charter school. That was a huge avenue for everything. That was where I had to start with. Because I did both development, so fundraising and facilities for part of that. So everything was about what you're saying. Here it's a little different. A small charter school is one thing. When you're a government organization, that eliminates a lot of stuff right there. We have been and we continue to apply for grants. So the state offers seismic grants. We have several applications in right now for elementaries. They should have announced already. They delayed. We're waiting to hear if we got another approval or not, but we did get Prescott's. It was over 2 million, like 2.5 almost, just to do the wing with the cafeteria and gym. So it didn't include the rest of the building. So that's a huge grant, 2.5 million. But it only covered a percentage of one building. So, and then same with Portland Clean Energy Fund, our initial grant for that was about 5.5 million. And we've essentially already committed for that full amount already. We've spent less than half of it doing projects that needed to be done. Very little was done of like, we would love to do more solar panels, so we would love to do this. It was mostly, we need to do this and this meets the criteria to get the grant to pay for it. And so we're going to do that. But the other projects that we've got planned that have already been approved, which go through summer of 27, already takes that 5.5 million. And then we got a second piece of grant that gave us another like $8 some million, and that was specific. That was a different format of grant. So that one was specifically for, we had to apply in advance of what we're going to do it with it. And we chose to do geothermal heating and cooling for 2 of the 4 elementaries. We've completed the feasibility and test drilling for all 4. So we have everything we need to know that we picked the right 2 to start, and also what's the next steps and stuff for the other ones when it's time to do those, so that we can apply for more grants. But we have to wait till we at least get one of them done before we get too crazy with it. And the good thing about that system is not only is it replacing some aging equipment. But it allows us to add cooling to those buildings without expensive HVAC that we don't have the resources to maintain. Like this site in the middle school have AC. We can't afford to fix it every time one of them breaks. It's so expensive. One unit at this site usually costs around 20,000 just to make a repair. So there's a lot of units at this site. So yes, we are always looking for grants. There's other grants that we haven't quite applied for, but when we put out the RFP for the architecture and engineering for these geothermal grants or the work for that grants, we're actually putting in some requirements for them to do some prep work so that we can also apply for like the community resilience grant that's out, which would allow us to get some potential solar or other power generating, but also it's more about, it's like a microgrid thing. So you add storage capacity. And that way, because we very much, we're with solar, that those two buildings could be net zero. Now we can't just put solar on them because you don't want to do solar until you're ready to do the roofs. We're not ready to do the roofs, and we don't have money for solar right now. But we can prep and do pieces so that we could potentially get other grants. So yes, we're always looking for grants, but for a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, you're not going to get grants. Even the playgrounds, elementaries need updates to their playgrounds, and that's a liability thing. That's not about, hey, we want nice new pretty playgrounds. That's, we need to decrease liability and increase accessibility. And you'll see advertisements, I get them all the time saying like $20,000 grant for your playground. Well, that's just like a sale basically. It's the company that is selling you the playground, giving you a discount off their inflated price. And it's still like 30, 50, 150, whatever, tons of money. But like elevators, fire systems, you're not getting grants for most of that. And we do qualify in some ways more than other districts because of our the makeup of the district. But at the same time, we didn't get a couple of recent grants that we applied for, including the summer program grant, when other places around did, and we're like, wait, why did they get it? We did it. So I think a tough thing for us is that we get lumped in with all the urban districts, whereas there's a big push right now for all the rural districts because they have similar problems to us, if not worse, because they have no tax base. So yeah, I'm always looking for more grants. So if anybody finds one, shoot it over. I'll take a look, see if I can't figure something.
My other follow-up question is there the possibility of community partners that could eventually help sponsor some like a wish list that you may have that would be with our things that need to be done?
Yeah, that's something Michael and I have been talking about. He's been working on some stuff on his own. I've been working on some, and we've collaborated a little. Most of it's early. Usually those things take a lot more time because it's not an established grant. You don't just apply and get it. So we've got Parkside Little League that uses our fields. They have some funds where we've been leveraging good relations with some like with Soderstrom Architecture, who's been doing a bunch of pro bono work for us and trying to get like a hitting facility for baseball and softball, get it all designed. We figure if we can do that part of it, then and get it all ready, then maybe Parkside would say, yeah, we'll fund all or 75% or whatever, and we go from there. I think a lot of the other things where we're looking at the partnerships are more programming wise, less facilities based. But we did get a grant for Prescott from PSEF, but the grant wasn't to us. One of our partner organizations, ELSO, they applied through PSEF for Prescott. Well, part of it's for Prescott, part of it's for them. So in summer of 27 will be very busy. That's when their project is supposed to mostly happen as well. And that was potentially building some sort of outdoor pavilion and reconfiguring some landscaping and adding some improved accessibility to the upper field, as well as addressing some drainage issues. So we try whenever we can to not just have it be pretty stuff, but like when you address some functional stuff for us as part of it. So yeah, keep thinking, keep dreaming. It definitely won't solve our problem, because even with all the grants we've been getting, it's been over $10 million of grants in the last 5 years for facilities. It's barely touching our list of facilities needs.
I have one question. One of the things I noticed on the report, and you mentioned it a little bit, was the renewal cliff we're approaching. Do you
Not to be dramatic or anything.
right? Do you have an estimate, a number of years for when we reach that cliff, or not really?
Nope.
Okay.
That's the part of what's so impossible with this conversation, is people want numbers and dates. And we can't give them to you. All we can say is, well, the life expectancy was, and even then, if you Google right now, what's the life expectancy of this system in a school in Oregon? It will tell you 15 to 45 years or something like that. That does not help you, right? So then you reword it, say, well, what's the median life expectancy? And you shrink the system and make it more specific, and it still says 30 to 50, 15 to 30. That's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Most of the decisions we're making, we feel like it's a long time if we're talking 10 years. And a lot of these systems are, they could be fine for 10, or they could go out tomorrow. That's the thing, we just don't. Now we have new systems that are breaking down sooner than old systems, and we have like Sacramento has 2 big water heaters. The one that we need to replace that's leaking is fairly new, like in the probably 2013 or later, and the other one is much older than that. You can tell just by looking at it, and still doing awesome. So it probably isn't as efficient. So PSEF would love first change that one, but that's not the one that's bad. So
Thank you.
yeah.
I just wanted to ask, for the assessment that they added about ADA,
Mhm.
is there like where are we at within our schools? And there's some stuff that we do need to like address right away. And if that's in the plans.
So that's a new assessment for us. We didn't have it.
Mhm.
I still have to go through all of them in detail.
Okay.
But the highlighted stuff that you saw in your report was mostly focusing on access like into the building and
Okay.
stuff outside. So middle school, even though it's essentially brand new, it's really not, but it feels like it is still to us. Actually still had some things that were noted. Most of though it was outside stuff. So it was stuff that kind of wasn't as required during permit process when it was built. So things like access to the lower field, a lot of things that you don't even think about, like how steep something is. And the report, if you ever want to look at them in detail, or they actually checked the slope of everything. And things that you thought would be absolutely totally fine, you're like, nope, that's 5% different than what, or 0.5% different.
Got it.
And so that's where we just have to prioritize. Now, some of the things they put in there, we can do internally, and that will be something we will prioritize as much as we can within our regular day-to-day duties with regular budget. Most of it's not even expensive, those things. But there's also things that you're like, yeah, we're not doing that anytime soon. I think we all want to be as accessible as we can be. In reality, it's without a bond probably bigger than we're even gonna get, we would struggle to do that, because you're talking about reconfiguring things that were never designed to be accessible from the start. And so the cost would be huge, but besides just what we want as far as accessibility, as far as federal mandate with ADA, at any point, somebody could make a claim, and I don't know about current climate, but typically the federal government would send somebody out to investigate the claim. And if they find that you're not in compliance, then usually they'll be much harder on us as a government agency, because they know that in a way, money is available. It's just whether we would allocate it for that. And so they'll force you to do it just to make it so that money's allocated. We'll allocate it for you. The best way to avoid that is to come up with a plan. So this is the first step in that plan, is the report. The second step would be going through it in detail and putting a date, a timeline, and some sort of justification on why. If you have a plan in advance before they inspect you, then they're likely not to fine you or force you to do it immediately. They'll just say, yep, you're not in compliance. There are some exceptions if it's super obvious, like people can't do things they absolutely should be able to do.
Yeah.
Like this student cannot do computers because it's in the lower level. And that's the only place we let computer class happen. That wouldn't fly. But as far as like, is every door perfect? Is every slope perfect? Is every handrail perfect? They're not gonna usually cite you for that if you have a plan.
Okay.
So that's our next steps, but we would definitely want to put a percentage of money in. To some degree, when you do any kind of renovation, not necessarily repairs, but renovations, the city requires you to spend at least a percentage of that budget on ADA related stuff.
Thank you.
No questions. I just want to say that definitely appreciate you. You're thinking about like the shoe challenge. There was 1 year I set up all the alarms, so I appreciate your patience. Thank you. Man. Appreciate you.
One thing I wanted to highlight for the board is that a critical goal of the group this year that we want to go into next school year with kind of an understanding is the pursuit. We've had students come and advocate for an operations levy. You're pretty familiar after going through the budget cycle with where we stand operationally and some of the challenge we have with, legislative advocacy going into next year. But I wanted Robin to be able to present to you tonight, just so you could get an overview of the deeper facility needs of the district, because obviously I don't think we're in a position to go for a capital bond and a operations levy. I think that's quite a burden to place on the community. I will have Cherie in the near future follow up just to kind of explain to you what that process would look like. I know she's talked a little bit about like when our current bond expires from 2011, but that helps this group identify, because if we were going to go for an operations levy, it's really identifying like, are we going for a November cycle? You knew lead him out. I heard him crying out there. I figured one would go for him. Any students good at bird wrangling?
Why not? Let's use your jacket, dude. I just told you that.
I gotta return this.
Where do you want to go?
Yeah.
Freddie, where do you want to use your
Yeah,
jacket?
ultimately, I think there's probably for this group, having a better understanding of what
I don't think Robin's fair.
what more do you need to know? Because I think
This is
it would be
just-
good to go into next school year kind of knowing what we want to do. Come on, buddy, you're almost there.
What do you mean no? Is that gonna kill it?
He's about to hit it again.
Um,
Oh, God, I'll take that.
All right, yes, Ari, just want to ask a question, please.
That's what
I just really work today.
People just gonna hover around it and just
I was
stare.
wondering two things, and Sharif probably the one to give me information on this. Are there ever opportunities that adjacent districts might collaborate? Because they're the same life cycle, like I've been to some of David Douglas's middle schools and other schools. And they may be in a similar life cycle to the elementary schools here, not the middle school, but the elementary school. And it multiplies the volume of the potential vendors gonna get.
Wait, can we climb up here?
So you guys ever collaborate?
Should I try to
Would be
climb?
wonderful.
When we did the second phase of PISA, the consortium.
You know, Robin.
Okay.
You know, Robin.
But we were the only district, I believe, in the state that have tried to are trying to do geothermal. Okay, when we asked the other districts around us,
Did you get?
wanted that we believe that should have benefited from, they chose not to go that route. They chose an easier route. We chose a long-term route because geothermal is a long-term route. Not very cost effective in the beginning, but cost effective over the long term and less payments. So
Second question.
that's the way.
So I worked in the airline industry. Fuel's just a huge cost in the structure of the industry. Sometimes American Airlines would do it. Southwest was just had an uncanny ability to do this, which is they would buy hedges. So they buy the right, you buy fuel at a certain price, and when you guys have these projects coming out, when I served on the Ed Foundation, we're gonna do a big capital project. We have pay for play. No one say it's illegal, but people do it. Pay for play, so the vendors that are going to be bidding would make contributions. Well, they contributions to the district, you know, I mean.
But we can't do that,
So in Texas,
you cannot do that in governmental accounting or governmental contracting security laws. That will be in violation.
so the way Texas did it, it came to the Education Foundation for the district.
Which has their own 501c3,
Okay.
which can do those things
Okay.
that we can do.
Okay.
So if they broker the deal and they sell that deal and they say they're gonna be the selling agent. They have to have a signed agreement that says it releases the liability from the district
Okay.
on those particular instruments of activity.
Okay.
That make
All right,
sense?
yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying.
I would love to do things Cherie way, the hillbilly business way, but unfortunately, I don't get a district that doesn't allow me to do that.
Okay.
It would be, I mean, I think there's definitely been conversations at the state level and better ways to consolidate capital support for schools. You know, there are states that do a much better job than Oregon. Georgia's a good example. Georgia dedicates a certain percentage of their sales tax to just capital improvements. So every district has revenue each year that allows them either to save, to build schools, things of that sort. And it's obviously a pretty significant revenue resource. I do think that, like, as Robin was talking about these state grants, I mean, I think every district is at high risk for seismic risk.
Okay.
And right now, like we apply every year for these seismic grants because obviously our buildings are high risk. But we received one for Prescott, we need one for the other three schools. They're most at risk.
So the state has a school facilities.
They do have a grant. And it's about 40 to 60 million, and it changes biennium.
Okay.
And it's based on if you get a bond. So if you
Okay.
get a bond and you sell a bond,
It matches.
not necessarily, you get a proportionate share
Okay.
of it for the year.
Okay.
But out of the 197 school districts, we are right now rated 168 out of eligibility,
Okay. Okay.
only for where we sit in the region. So we would not, and that where the demographic hurts us, and I complained to the state. They are not gonna change that demographic right now. We are gonna continue to be uneligible for that grant.
Thank you.
Nice job, you guys.
Wrangling 101.
You add that to the resume, Waylon.
I will, very good.
Stop things I'm gonna teach you this. I know it. I thought it was about me.
Right.
All right.
You have any other?
Any in-person public comments? Doesn't look like it. All right. All right, so we're gonna break for an executive session at 7:28 PM.
Thank you, Kevin.
Recess?
No, we're gonna go in the back. And you can stay.
Now I'll call back the Park Rose, May 11th, 2026. Working session at 8:19 PM. Let's see, so next, we have the consent agenda. All right, so licensed staff personnel contracts are a necessary step for the district to finalize staff employment. With the board's action focus on improving the contract, not the individual. So with that being said, do I hear a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving tonight's consent agenda, please say aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. So next we have a presentation by our CFO Cherie Lewis on the tax anticipation note.
As most of you got, I believe on Monday, and I was already in New York, the final draft of the POS, which is a sale document of the tax anticipation notes. And it included all the other districts. I'd made 4 or 5 edits to our comments. I'm due, we've got basically a Moody's rating that we got 2 days ago, which is good standing. We have a due diligence, it's basically a 10-page questionnaire that I had to fill out. And then we had another document that I had to fill out, an IRS questionnaire. And then we had the demand letter, final letter. Those were all in the last until right before I left to go out of town. So as it looks now, we're ready at this point to do the sale. Today, they sent to me our cash flow statement that I presented initially to them. There are some small changes that are immaterial, so I didn't make any adjustments to them. Because our cuts included staff that were in July and August. Staff that would have been paid in July and August. So the $3.3 million I split over September to June. Instead of July and August. So it wouldn't have made a material change, so I didn't make any adjustments to the cash flow statement. So at this point, they had 2 rhetorical comments back asking on the POS and the questionnaire on the due diligence. The questions were pretty minor in relation. We're good. And we don't have any outstanding items right now, and I'm looking at the end of the month to do the sale. So it looks good at this point. I'll know more at the end of the month where our financials look. Hopefully they look a little bit better than they were. I keep praying to God that they're gonna look better. But in the budget, we're gonna make changes based on the agreement that we got from the union. We'll make some adjustments for that, but we've got a lot of things to do before the end of the year. to make things happen and flow correctly. To make sure the auditors arrive on Wednesday. We have a 4-page list of items. I'm finishing up a document now, which is our projections for all our grants of where we look to be by 6:30. And hopefully we'll be done with the checklist tomorrow. Since I wasn't here, did some of it while I was gone, but we're looking good to start the audit starting on Wednesday, so it never ends. So, any questions?
Juan, I'll start with you. Any questions? Cynthia?
No questions.
None at the moment.
Great work, no questions.
Thanks.
Good work. No questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate you, OG.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tree.
All right, so next, the Board of Education, so the board self-evaluation results. You wanna go through these?
Usually, yeah,
Okay.
you pull them up, right? That's what we did.
Sure.
You could discuss it now, people could look at it and come back and ask questions later. I think that's what we've done in the past. So it's up to you. Do you want everybody to look at them?
Have a comment?
I guess is it up to like if we want to go through it now or we want to review it and come back? Okay. What was that? Yeah, I think we'll read through them and then we can follow up with questions.
Yeah.
Alrighty. The next, we'll go ahead to certified appreciation recap.
Thank you for sending me pictures, they're wonderful, I'll put them on social media, you can have them met. And also some excellent ones, everybody did great with them. Would anybody want to share about their experience?
I mean, they were excited, the teachers were like really happy, especially when we mentioned is from the art students here. One said, oh, my wife just took pottery, so she's gonna be excited about it. And so they were appreciative, and also that as board members, we took the time to actually go into the classrooms and you know, just say thank you. So they appreciate that we were there, not just dropping something off, but like we actually went and to each of the classrooms. So I went to Prescott. It was good.
I always love going to the elementary schools because you hand the gift to the teacher and all the kids go, ooh.
Oh yeah. That's what asking like.
My experience was pretty unique. My little one came with me and she was my helper.
Oh,
Went to the middle school first. We were able to have guidance through staff member there that took us to all the teachers. So there were pictures of all the staff on the list. Accepting the item, they're really amazed by it. It was, you know, made by our students here in the pottery class. Coming over to the high school, I was not able to take pictures of all the teachers like I did in middle school, just because a lot of the teachers were already in class. I stepped in their classroom and some of the students were, I'm like, wow, what's going on? So giving them the item in their class was just unique and amazing too, because they're in their element and we were surprised and really appreciative of the work and the item that they received and the acknowledgement. So it's pretty great to just kind of see see that and that we were able to deliver to all this. All the teachers that were present on the list, so it was really a really good experience, yeah.
I went to Sacramento this time and we'll technically run the school and same sort of thing, it was fun to go into the classroom, and kids are in there, so they're all interested. And the principal was saying that it was really nice to have like a little during that week, because the last week was hard, and so being able to bright spot and
Well, unfortunately, I couldn't make it to a school because my eye was swollen shut. But something like that. But yeah, no, I just appreciate everybody holding it down. So yeah.
Have to figure out what we're gonna come up for next year.
Yeah, I think that.
Two rags and comics. We are there now.
I think student-made things have really, kind of, I think, sparked
Yeah, I
appreciation.
think so too.
Even in a week that I know was a hard week. Andre and I passed out at Shaver. Yeah, I mean, I think it's great to do with the kids around too, because they just naturally kind of share their appreciation for their teachers too when they see us recognizing them. So that was really quite nice. But yeah, nice job. I think we're on a good roll. That's a really good
Yeah, I think so too.
recognition.
Right on.
Oh, and thank you for Park Rose Coffee
Oh, yeah, thanks.
for partnering with us.
Shout out to Park Road Coffee.
You officially turned 1 year.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Most recently, yeah.
All right, so next we have our superintendent with a legislative advocacy update.
So
oh, Toby.
Oh, sorry, 12B. So OSBA, so they're not doing the summer conference anymore. So they've now rolled out summer school sessions. Which again replaces the summer conference. So it will be Thursday, July 16th, 2026, from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. at Lane Community College. So it'll be $275 per person. Then there.
Did, board's okay, having everybody registered, so you have anybody that's interested? You guys are like paying for that? If someone wants to attend,
I don't know what you have the budget.
it's less than last year, a lot less.
Yeah. I won't be here, but
That's my first.
It's my daughter's birthday.
That's the day before.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's interested, but
I mean, there is one in Redmond on July 10th, if anyone wants to drive further. Redmond's further, correct?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, but no,
All right,
All
thank you. All right, so now we will go ahead and pass it over to superintendent.
So I wanted to just highlight a document, a one-page document that hopefully starts our legislative agenda for the 2027 session. And I think what I'm hoping and I feel confident our board can do is as we approach a time where we know we need more money operationally, but I think it's time to reframe. And I wanted to present to you, I have shared with you that I'm starting to work with a coalition of administrators and leaders. Paul's had the opportunity to meet with Pooja Bhatt, who is a former policy advisor to Governor Kotek, who now is helping us coalesce some key ideas about changing the system. So going well beyond the political message of, hey, give us more money. So these three things are really kind of what we're hoping to work on in the coming months. The first one being just like we have statewide organizations, OSBA obviously representing our board. I'm going to turn this way just so I can see you guys. And I think that what we've been doing hasn't been as effective as we'd like it to be, because I know that none of us like sitting here talking about, monetary deficits. But I do think it's going to require reframing like what we're asking for. So I do think that we need to talk about the state school fund distribution. The formula is old. I think we fundamentally need to look about how the money is spent, not just give us more money. We need to look under the hood of the system and say, hey, the state, just like our district, the state wants good outcomes. And the legislative argument's going to be, hey, look, we've been giving you more money, but you're not getting the outcomes. And what I want to do is look out under the hood of that system and say, well, there are some theories as to why we probably aren't getting the outcomes that we want, because this formula, I think, is designed to get the outcomes it's getting. But at the same time, we need to encourage our legislators to think differently about solutions. Last week, there was a state school fund. There was a group of parents in Portland Public Schools that had a forum with the two Ways and Means chairs. It sounded pretty contentious. But to be honest with you, while I'm really appreciative of parents advocating for educators and our kids, I worry that if we just keep going at it the same way, it's not going to work. So really, this is just starting to look more closely at, well, what are some things that we can do? I think we want to acknowledge, like, we want shared accountability. We're not afraid of that. But if you're going to hold us accountable, then should we be putting things that there are going to be a lot of things on the docket next year that are more things that don't come with money, but they come with tasks. And I do think that fundamentally about how legislators can dictate what we do in schools, but they don't necessarily have to follow that with cash. So those kind of unfunded mandates are having a significant impact on our ability to really focus on things like early literacy, the framework for high school success, all of those parts and pieces. So I think the state school fund distribution formula will be something I hope to, like, this summer, we can kind of more deeply educate ourselves on how it works. I'm sure he is definitely one of the experts in the state, in my opinion, and understanding how the state school fund formula works and fundamentally where some of its flaws are. So then we can start to point to how the formula could change, even if they didn't give us more money. Some of the things that could fundamentally change things for Park Rose and other districts, because we're not obviously the only ones. Poverty is a good example of that, how we're calculating poverty, and better understanding how that's working across the state. The other piece is that in the next year, Andre specifically in his role, there's a lot around Senate Bill 141 and a lot of, again, things they're going to be asking districts to do without the support I think you're going to want to press for. Because again, we don't want to deny accountability, but we also want accountability for the accountability. What are you doing to build capacity and support this instructional framework that ODE is putting together? The second piece is obviously that we're using every meeting to amplify and get rid of the old narratives. I'm going to try really hard to not just completely say all the time we're underfunded. While I believe that, I think that we need to start talking about that it's more than just money. It is about how we're spending the money. It is about how we're holding each other accountable. And can our state government start to reframe how education is put together? And that might include looking at sources of revenue differently. And that did come up in last week's meeting at Lincoln High School, was about, this is the first time I've heard legislators actually start to talk about different sources of revenue for schools beyond adding just another, like a specialized tax, like a corporate tax, things of that sort. But again, that's going to take some political will to look at these property tax structures that have hindered schools for years, as well as, for whatever reason, Oregon is immune to the sales tax. But we have what I would call a 1.5 leg stool. We have property tax, but property tax limitations that prevent us being able to really leverage the high value property taxes here for the state school fund. And that other half is the income tax, right? Because the income tax is, we are vulnerable to the income tax. Next year, if the economy's bad, then, you know, we have to ride that wave in the state when the economy is struggling, because again, a lot of districts rely upon that income tax because that's what provides a lot of the revenue for the state school fund formula. And when you're talking about budget cuts, so we are going through a process of 26 FTE being cut from our roles. Not all people, some of it is attrition, but people are learning, you know, that some folks are learning that they don't have jobs. I don't want to blame our labor partners, but we also need to recognize and fundamentally understand 197 districts every year have to bargain different labor contracts. And those labor contracts are tough for us to predict how much of the revenue that you guys are all deciding on, where it's going to go in the budget. That's a really tough call. And that's a place where I think we fundamentally need to look closely at how do we effectively pay our staff, but while not being victim to a 30% PERS rate that is such a burden to some, like $11.36 billion is a lot of money for education. But then if you reframe that and you take 30% of that away and say state legislatures are putting documents out. The one they put out the other night says that we're getting $17,000 to $18,000 per kid. That is not true. They're taking all of this revenue and saying it's going directly to schools, while Cherie's got to pay a bill every month that pays on the debt and liability to our retirement system, which I'm a beneficiary of. But at the same time, it's the school district's responsibility to pay for something that doesn't go directly to kids and it doesn't go directly to staff. And it feels like we're providing it's misinformation to every year not identify, like, that is a key factor. That's 30% of the money that's going out the door that we get. That's part of that $18,000 per kid. That's not per kid, right? Kids aren't getting to it. So I do think that it's important to start the conversation about how do we set salaries in the state of Oregon, and how do we not become, because to be honest with you, like, and I'm a big promoter and protector of our unions and believe in labor unions. But I also know one of the fundamental flaws in how we're funding schools now is that it is up to us to work with our unions and determine like what their salary is going to be. And in Park Rose, it's even harder because we have to keep up with Portland Public Schools. They got a levy. Westland Wilsonville, they've got a levy. It's really, really tough for us to compete. And so we need good people. We want to keep them here. We're not getting the revenue to support those ideas, and we don't have the same level of bargaining power that maybe other bigger districts do. So we have to ask our staff to do really difficult things in times like this. One being like, I am so proud of our teachers for standing up to the executive order and saying like, hey, we want, but they're doing this not for themselves, but they're doing it for the students at Park Rose, which makes me really proud to work here, but it shouldn't be on their backs. And I think we need to be really clear that there is a disconnect in how we're figuring out how much money schools have in the reality of like, we got to pay people. And so not that I want them to do this, but just imagine they said, you can't increase salary more than 1%. It's a statewide rule, and we're going to give you this much. What they do, and Washington State's a good example of this. You know, the Supreme Court decision, the Clary decision up in Washington State brought a lot more money because basically the school district sued the state, said that you were violating the state constitution for appropriately funding schools. So they win that case, and then guess what? A whole bunch of money floods into the state of Washington. They have a statewide salary schedule, but what happened when all that money came is they all then went individually in bargain contracts. Bargain contracts 5 years ago that we've said, like, looking at our partners across the river, like, how are they going to afford that over time? And guess what? Guess who's cutting tens of millions of dollars from their budgets? Vancouver School District, Evergreen School District, Battleground School District. Tons of people are losing their jobs, and those folks are making a lot more money than our teachers, right? So I again, that system needs to be looked at to say, isn't there a better way? Aren't there other states that are finding ways to pay their teachers well, but not have it be subject to the district's budget every single year? Those are key. Those are three like key reframes. What I hope to be able to do this summer and early fall in helping us lead up to make some big decisions about operations and capital costs in Park Rose. But a big part of our role next year is seeing if we can change the narrative at the state level to see if, hey, over the next 2 biennium, I don't think that it's all going to happen in the next session, but I do believe over the next 5 years, we could accomplish a lot in changing the narrative about how we can change the system of how schools are funded. I could be wrong, but I've been doing this a long time and we just keep going saying like, you just need to give us more money. And I think unless we start looking at the nuts and bolts under that, Joash, going back to your question in the fall that you asked at the OSBA conference, we need to hold our professional groups accountable and hold ourselves accountable to say like, we really want to change the story, then we need to start talking about that. And my hope for all of you is to build that capacity. Same thing in our students, right? Like whoever's on our board next year, that they understand like how it's translating to, to the school level and what it's impacting. Because the students know, like, I mean, Park Rose High School, when it's all said and done, there's 4 less teaching positions here next year. And that means that electives are going to be more crowded. That means English class is going to be more crowded. Fortunately, no full programs are being cut. But it's less than what our seniors are receiving this year. And that's a really hard pill to swallow. Be happy to open up to questions or comments.
Warren, any questions?
Yeah.
No question.
No questions.
I have some comments. I appreciate these reframes. I think it's great, and I also don't think this is too complicated. I think that when we are talking to legislators, we have to really break it down and educate them, because the reality is they are not experts in education. They have their advisors or whatever that are telling them, this is how the system works, this is how the system works. And they're like feeding them that information. And if it is not clear coming from these groups, like the talking points just have to be so specific and direct and just easy to understand. And stories are powerful, but I think, I don't know, like my organization this year, we pulled off a huge win. And the way that we did that was we all said the exact same thing every single time we spoke to legislators. It wasn't this big, huge thing. It was, 3 talking points. And we made sure that, the legislators understood what we were saying. And once they got it, they were like, this is the obvious thing we need to do. What we need to do is obvious, and we just need them to see that and just very, in simple terms. Like we can understand these things, but it's just complicated when you have a legislator who's got all these people coming to them constantly with all of this language. It's not gonna stick. Like it just has to be really simple, and everyone has to say the same thing over and over again. And so I don't know how we can condense it down and pick I think we pick one thing. One thing, and that is the thing that we say over and over and over and answer the questions about that one thing. And I think we could do that, but as soon as it starts being too big and too much information, people turn off.
Yeah.
And so I think we can do it, but we just have to be very strategic and purposeful, just very direct.
I'm hoping that, to your point, Mariah, that we have a, kind of a basic roadmap of what that messaging can be. And ideally, Paul and I can work with Pooja to help guide our group around what that, because I mean, again, the more that message is clear across the state, the better. But I do feel like I think the challenge I have for our board is I know you guys can do it. And I feel like when I hear our board members talking to a legislator, I always feel really proud because you're being very specific about changes that need to happen versus just going and saying, I'm not saying that all board members go give us more money, but that I watched a review of that session last week, and it was, again, I think some of the really key points were lost because it was just kind of an argument about well, you're not getting results, so why should we give you more money? And what we need to be prepared for is when they say we're not getting results, we need to look under the hood and say okay, have you taken a look, and what are those 2 or 3 things that you could point out to legislators to say, here's all the things that you've asked us to do, without funding to go along with it. So I'm hopeful that we can have a one pager that's coalesces all those points.
I just want to echo and highlight what Maria said.
Is there a legislator that we feel like would be particularly open to hearing this, that we might be able to get as I don't want to say champion necessarily, but someone that could carry this message throughout the halls?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I even think our local legislator, Twee Tran, will, if we're ready to have the accountability conversation and we feel equipped to do that. But yeah, I think there's a lot of people. There are, Ricky Ruiz, who's not our own, but he's out here. He really is fundamentally looking at a full reform of school funding. And that is going to be something that we'll want to keep a close eye on, because there might be things right there that we could attach to and say this idea will fundamentally change things and could create the systemic improvements that you're looking for. Because I think what we have to tie what we're asking for is yes, we want systemic improvement too, but in order to get there, we got to look at these things while we're asking this. But yeah, Senator Gore, I could list out 3 or 4 folks from the Senate, 3 or 4 folks from the House of Representatives that would be good advocates for a changing the system versus just looking at doing it the same way.
Okay.
I think from the other positions that I hold as well for on the OSBA and Legislative Policy Committee, we have a meeting next week. So I'll be interested to hear the topics that are gonna be discussed based on how everything's going right now and all the budget cuts and so just looking as how can I make sure that I utilize that time also to be able to use some of what we're discussing and bringing that forward to in that platform. So just maybe working with you as well, so I'm interested to hear what we're going to discuss.
Yeah.
Monday and Tuesday, but then also it's well, how can I bring it forward of this is the type of work that we're doing and the why and what and how do we hold them accountable to in helping us as well, because they support our districts.
Yeah.
So just figuring out what's the best approach and how I can help.
Mariah, I appreciate you making that point. It's something we talked about in our group too, is the community engagement aspect of it. And I think a lot of times, when approaching this, it's almost like, you got to sell something to get something. But I think if we can find a way to educate our community members as well, I think that will serve us well, because now we have more people who are knowledgeable, but to your point, Mariah, who understand, what it is that we're advocating for, as parents, community members as well. So I think sometimes, we can get lost in, it's just okay, we got to get to our we have to talk to the government, but I think it's also too important to inform our community. That way, they understand because sometimes people think like, oh, this district doesn't know how to spend money or this, that, and the third, and the other, not understanding that, hey, that's not, the issue. But I think if we can get our community to rally along with us, alongside us, and I think it will help us in the long run as well when we talk about, a capital bond or a levy. So that way, we can kind of take it upon ourselves to help educate, our community members as well, and students too, more importantly. So that way, again, when we are advocating, we can advocate collectively and not feeling like we have to carry the, burden on our shoulders as, educators, or board members, we're doing it collectively. So thank you for that. Appreciate you making that point.
Thanks, Paul. All right, students, can I ask a favor? Would you guys be willing to like come down here and gather around just real quick? Because our last conversation is about student body elections. And I feel like you're so far away. So this is my final piece. Yeah, like just so you're a little bit closer so we can kind of face each other. Thank you.
Still got the goggles.
Appreciate that.
Yes. Already.
Yeah, 1 month from tonight, some of these guys are going to be walking across the stage.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
It's really exciting.
Bye. No, just fine.
So,
Be there, Paul.
I will be.
Will?
Yes.
Yeah, change plans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I made it a point. Yeah. How much I love y'all. You're welcome. So I want a graduation gift. No, I'm just joking.
So the last time we met, we talked about student representative elections, student body elections. And so I had a follow-up meeting with Miss A and Miss Alfrey. Well, both are Miss A, right? And they walked me through what the process is going to be like this year, which is very similar to what you guys all talked about. And just kind of, I actually went back with Whitney kind of back to when we first started and like what were the commitments and things we said we were going to do. So I think on all of your part is that so these elections are going to happen here in the next few weeks, correct? I know you guys have prom coming up this weekend, so that's the thing in the foreground that's coming quick. So one thing I heard our student rep say last time, and please, this is your time to speak up if you disagree or if you want to share your own personal comments, is that there was strong feelings about if I'm elected, the idea of being elected by peers, which obviously is through the student body election. And then so that seemed to be pretty solid, and it sounds like process wise, things have been laid out pretty clear. To avoid some of the controversy that happened in last year's elections, just like sounds like the rules are a little more firm in terms of how these guys cannot campaign like normal campaigns that you're used to seeing. There are limitations to what they can do. So it really is kind of more grassroots campaign, connecting with people, and not that I don't think you guys can buy treats or do anything like that, right? Okay. That's a reasonable limit.
Yeah, I don't think it was like that.
There wasn't a money limit last year?
Last year we were bad.
Oh. Okay.
So they have changed kind of from some of the lessons, or they've changed that. The one thing I would really like your help with the newly elected members is it sounds like there's clarity in what the role means. But as all these guys kind of spoke to, you don't really know until you don't know. So one thing that was mentioned the last time was that they are elected by their peers, but then when folks are then elected, then I think it would be good to bring them to the board and have you an opportunity to interview, to orient, right? Like just to get to know them and to be able to give an opportunity to say like, here's how we want to work together. It's something we haven't done before. We just asked these guys to show up to the first meeting and, kind of debrief them. So that would be one proposal, is that like the students that are elected by their peers, that you would have an opportunity as a board you know, for lack of a better term, interview them, which is that they would come introduce themselves, they tell you why they decided to run, why they're like what they think they could do to help the school board, things that they want to see. Like you guys could craft 3 to 4 questions that I think the willingness on your part would just be like, yeah, we're willing to do that and spend the time doing it, because that would likely be something that we would try to target to do in August. And just wanted to run that kind of, because you guys didn't necessarily have to do that. I know Jackson, you came and visited like when we had our retreat in August, got to know people and were super brave and introduced yourself and so forth. I think Waylon, you came by too. I can't remember. So that would be one element. The other element that was proposed was, should we invite the opportunity for someone to apply and then be interviewed? And that's really something that I think the board would have to decide. I think one thing that was clear kind of from the school administrator and the leadership teacher side is that they wouldn't necessarily want to like just only tell the people who like lost the election, like here's your chance to get in. That it would be more of a, if the board wanted this to have like a single representative that was elected by the board, that we would utilize the leadership students, the students who'd been elected to the board already, to go out and kind of promote the idea of like, we want to bring one more person on. Now, I don't remember exactly, but I know that we have some students who are individually running. The reason we have so many on the board is because they've run as co-presidents. And so we've had years where we've had 4, we've had years like this year where we've had 6. And again, if the board wants to set limitations around that, like there's openness to that, we would just into future elections say ASB has to be a sole position. We just want one person. And that would be kind of bylaws that we would kind of propose to the high school to change. But otherwise, you have your elected student body members who are elected by their peers, and then and then kind of follow with an interview. As long as the interview, like the teacher and Ms. Alfrey also kind of felt like, well, we don't want the board to like interview them and then say like, you're out, you can't be on the board now. That the election itself serves as like, this person's going to be on the board representing us. The interview is more for you guys to really formally introduce yourselves and find out more about what they want to see happen for the district. And then the next discussion, I think, for all of you is, do you want to do like a broad cast out there for a student who is not the student who would run for ASB, who may be interested in being part of leadership, but just doesn't necessarily know how? Because that would also, like, from your experience, like, what would that look like? Probably would be something we'd have to wait for school to start, and we'd have to kind of run that, campaign in the fall. So I just wanted to see if you guys have any questions, further ideas. That's kind of like where we last left it off, but I wanted to, kind of finalize things tonight so that when the student body elections happen, we can then, maybe even bring them in before the end of the school year and say, here are the folks who won. And maybe it might even be people who are currently on the board. You never know. Juan, you still running? You haven't backed out? All right. All right. That's good to hear. Questions, comments, thoughts?
I mean, I think it's a great idea for them to come and meet us and for them to get an idea what they're getting into once we start the new school year, of like the process, what can you do? Like, one of the things that I would love to see more next year is like taking the opportunity of making the motions and just because that's new. This is new, and that you're able to do that. So like, but explaining like, what does that mean? And so I think it would be great for us to get to know them and then just let them know, like, these are the things that you have opportunity, and what are the things that why did you join, and what are the things that you would want to, see change.
Yeah.
In your school year and stuff. So I think it's a great idea. Not necessarily like a hardcore interview, more of like just like a meet and greet, and we have so we can have like a couple of questions that we had everyone, but it'd just be good to get to know them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the idea of having like the co-running chairs. Then also having the applicant, like an additional applicant apply that did not run or did not lose. For an opportunity to be on board as well. And that we as a unified board would interview that, those applicants to select one of however many applicants are want to run for that, initial application. That would be outside of the AS3B. I like that idea just because it would bring more like different unique perspective that it would give others opportunity useful.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think what we would need your help with, and I know some of you won't be here to help with that, but just from your perspective as leadership students, it would be something that we would want to do right away in the fall to, get out. I would think that students could come up with some good ideas of ways to get out there and advertise like what it is and what it involves. Because I think by the time you get to the end of September, you'd want to be able to like interview and also determine like, well, how many applicants are we gonna, because again, the board, what we could put together this summer is like, what's the application? Are you gonna have a couple essay questions? Tell us a little bit about why you want to be on the board, but something that also is accessible, that it's not just solely based. Because one of the other things that Miss Alfrey and Miss A had shared with me is that they also want us as board representatives, me as superintendent, to be more clear with our representatives around expectations for like who they are as a leader in the school. And that's everything for like how you behave at school, your grades, the activities that you're involved in, so that like we're being explicit, like as you said, Brenda, of like what our expectations are. And they thought that we could do kind of a revamp of that piece as well. Yeah.
I think the only complication with that for me is just that I feel like the expectation aspect should apply to every student.
Yeah.
However, I get like as far as leadership, but like I kind of like don't want to, separate leadership students from the entire student body, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's just like, okay, you have characteristics, traits, and then there's values.
Yeah.
I think maybe board value, but then maybe we can come up with something where it's just like, well, it aligns with just the entire student body, the district as a whole.
Yeah.
And because again, I don't want to say, hey, if you're in leadership,
Yeah.
you need to act this way. Like, nah, if you in Park Rose, that's just the standard across the board. But maybe there may be some technical expectations as opposed to characteristics that maybe we can, map out.
I like that.
Almost like it, because, it's like a job.
Yeah.
It's, there's those technical,
Yeah.
As opposed to saying like, hey, as a student, you should you should act like that, period. So I don't want to, put that pressure on kids in leadership, where it's just like, man, that's just the expectation across the board.
Yeah, I like that. And that could be woven into kind of the application and things we want kids to speak to. So they're more reflecting on values versus like, here are all the things that I've done and been able to achieve versus it being an achievement contest. All right. You guys have any questions, thoughts, comments?
I like in addition to is I think people express people or with like express themselves online. As for example, me and Freddie did a E-Girl skit. We've been around, see what type of George.
I saw.
And I think that's that also helps to connect other people who don't know who we are. By staying our games, just having those videos, have fun with, because in a serious time, we want to be elected and know that you have a few moments of relief where you're able to, breathe. Remember that you're also a student, you're doing this not only to enjoy yourself, but to become a better person. So I think those two videos really help out. We got no flyers, so shout out to that. Last year I was not stingy with, kind of putting it strategically, but now it's more like practically here and they'll have them to put it, besides that, there's just a minimum limit, but that was the problem, because I didn't go over
We didn't have a real question. I don't think it happens, but I like additional 2 videos from the main one, and then flyers as a good things. I think that was really just all I had in that I both.
I'm glad you brought that up because I think what's also important too is to try to mitigate the sentiment that this is something like a daunting task. So like having fun doing videos. So like one idea could be like get to know student board member as well as an adult board member. So it's just like maybe we control the leadership Instagram for a day where we're just walking around and stuff like that. Because I think one thing for me personally is just humanizing the work too. I think a lot of times when people see stuff like this, it's just kind of like, oh, it's school board, it's serious. Like, no, it can be fun too, because I think that'll speak to, students of having more of a desire. So like you could like maybe do a testimonial where you write something and leave something for the future classes and say, this was my experience, da da da. But how can we also improve too to support you all better? Again, because I mean, I get like you have so many things going on. Like, how can we make it more fun as well? You know, business per usual, but have some fun too. So I consider myself a grown-up kid.
So interviews would be before the beginning of next week, or would they be after?
It would be after they're elected.
Yeah.
After they're elected, and then we would set up a formal time that would be probably the first time they're meeting the board. We could find a casual introduction to that, so that it's not like sitting across the table, a way to humanize it. Where we could, maybe do something informal before we sit down, and I think we could find a way to. But yeah, it would be after we will know who's been elected, and I think for, that's probably in your last couple of weeks of school here, because you just got 4 weeks left. So
Depending on numbers, are you guys thinking of also having the extra person? Like,
yeah, I think we need to finalize that, and I think the most it sounds like kind of it sounds like every office has people are running against each other. Anybody running solo doesn't have anybody competing against them. Every junior, senior, ASB all have 2 different folks. Going against. They're solo
I think, yeah.
for ASB? Oh, for junior. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we'll let the results lie where they lie, and then when do you guys know when the election is? 18. So you guys will know, like, so in your report, the next time we meet on the 26th, I think, you guys give us a kind of a summary update on where things have ended up. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. No, go ahead, I shouldn't.
We weren't able to post on, we had one video that went in the news, and then we had one photo.
Yeah.
That was one photo. But I think I'm seeing a lot more, so like I know who's doing it,
Hmm.
and I'm more like familiar. But I think it would also help if they like got to know you guys too, so it was like it's less see. Not that you guys are like I was like really scared, but like I feel like maybe for Luis Jr. because they probably like
Yeah,
like
a little intimidating.
Yeah, because I like the 2 video they were that I have now on Instagram. But if I was to change, it would be that people who run would have to be like, could have their own proper account to do something on there, to express something to do more. The only thing I would see, because it's like, it's your own account that's controlling it, so like you get people for stuff that you do. But I think there should be like a baseline, because for example, me and Freddie, before we found out to be limited, we were gonna do like the short form content, because that's supposed popular nowadays. Short form, we would go around the school and talk about a specific club or activity and just kind of, spotlight it, But since we had 2 video limit, we kind of scrapped that idea because we felt like we weren't gonna have enough to work with. Or if we did put all of the videos, gonna be rushed, and that's gonna make us look like, oh, we don't care about a certain thing, So I would say, if I was to make one change, it would definitely be that people are allowed to have their own accounts. But like I said, just baselines where you guys, can tweak something, with certain accounts, people might think, oh, I could probably say something bad about so and so, and then, third counselor. they
Yeah.
have that power, but, I'll definitely wanna like. Come back to that to see if you guys
Okay.
would be open to so maybe opening that up, because I feel like that would also be a great way for someone to have a great campaign,
Mhm.
because it gives them more opportunity and flexibility to work around the school.
Yeah, I hear you. Absolutely. And just also being able to find out what do students want to see, like was kind of one of the questions you guys asked me in my evaluation was just like, how do I, how did I take your voice and your vision for the school and kind of translate it into the work that I do? And I do think that it would be good for the board of electeds to really kind of dig in, like what, and ask your, like whoever is coming in to replace you or one if you're back, to say, here's some tangible things, like at the end of the school year, we'd like to say that we accomplished. Because then you as leaders are actually trying to bring, change that students who are here can see right away. So I think that would be a good goal for us, is just like, how can we find some tangible goals to help the students kind of create a vision for themselves? All right, thank you. I think we'll circle back and you guys just give us a report on where things are at when we meet, in a couple weeks. Yeah.
Thank you all, appreciate it.
Have fun at prom.
Right. Yeah, y'all wants we got two more things, so I don't have to. It's up to y'all. All right. So, next, the reading of public comments. No action items, all right. Future agenda items, y'all get it. Correspondence or announcements? All righty, so with that being said, you see the upcoming board meetings. All right. With that being said, I move to adjourn this meeting at 9:15 p.m.